American culture is one that should not affirm and legitimize homosexuality.
In July of 1991, a group called Colorado for Family Values announces it will place on the ballot an amendment to the state constitution that would prohibit laws that protect gays from discrimination.
He pulled out a gun and he got up to the bar and he just slammed it. Basically said, I could kill you and nobody would care. I was working in the bar. Actually, I was managing True Colors, which is the women's bar. During the Amendment 2, once it had passed, shame, shame, shame! The violence stepped up. There was more people coming in with weapons, and I've had my windows broken out. God, it was like a free rein on bashing queers.
Well, the only other outlet was the bars in town. And unfortunately, even then, you could get beat up in a parking lot going to the hide and seek. There really weren't other safe spaces to go. A lot of people in the community knew it was a gay bar, so they would, if they were spoiling for a fight, they'd go around and hang around the parking lot, wait for somebody who looked vulnerable, and harass and beat people frequently.
And a lot of people nationally were pointing to Colorado and Colorado Springs, where it originated, as the ground zero of the hate state, the hate city and the hate state.
53% of those who go to the polls approve the measure. In El Paso County, it passes by 66%.
We're confident that whatever happens, whether we win, our side wins, or whether our opponents, this will end up in the United States Supreme Court.
Many people who supported Amendment 2 and the principles of it to say it wasn't discriminatory, they were just not granting special rights. And the people who were shocked that it passed were out there vocally saying that we're not a state that discriminates and this isn't who we are.
Freedom is like a pie. Silent. And that if you take a piece, there may not be enough left for them.
Silent.
In 1993, I came to candidate for the position of the Minister of Pikes Peak MCC here in Colorado Springs. To be the voice, or to be the face for those who couldn't be out. And I did that expressly because of Amendment 2. There were teachers in my congregation who marched with paper bags over their heads because they were afraid they would be fired if they were out. People, would always ask me, "Are you crazy? Why are you leaving Long Beach, California, with great weather and a fabulous gay scene, to go to Colorado Springs, the home of hate?" I would always say two things. I would always say, Dorothy Day said, "Go where you're least wanted because they're your most needed." And it never comes to an end. No matter how many people step up to the banquet of freedom and equity and justice, there will always be enough. We will never run out of love. Singing for our lives, we are gay and straight together.
Adolescent gay youth were purposely trying to get AIDS rather than live as a gay man. Shame kills. I watched that with my generation.
How many more have to die?
The biggest reason that I started Inside Out was not just because of the lack of support, but also I did not want them to go through what I went through, which was seeing lots of gay and lesbian adults drinking and drugging a lot. The only place that I could go to when I was dealing with coming out was the bars. People were getting beaten up. There was a lot of violence. And that generation of kids had to have a sense of resiliency that my generation never had.
The wilderness should not be seen as a permanent place in which one resides or in which one falls into and gets stuck, but rather as a place of transition and growth.
State courts eventually threw out Colorado's anti-gay rights amendment, giving gay rights groups their most significant legal victory in years.
Discovery, enlightenment, community, and liberation. It is only in the shared wilderness experience that the voice of one crying out in the wilderness becomes many and is heard.
And when I moved here in 2000, Amendment 2 had been a big issue.
About you, Bryson, is this the longest month of the year between now and Christmas?
The United Church of Christ is open and affirming. And it sort of transcends the notion of just acceptance and tolerance. It expands to inclusion, not just hey, you're welcome here, but hey, you're equal here. And what we need to do, especially as churches, all churches, is to at least uphold that sanctity of life that we say we uphold, so that our young people aren't suffering. I don't know that we do enough with that. Making ourselves visible and also making ourselves invitational to young folk.
And we are going to be raising money for Inside Out Youth Organization. We have been working with them all year.
It began in 1990, and with Regina Dipadova, she started this organization, couldn't even identify it as an LGBTQ organization. That was how much prejudice she was fighting and discrimination. Even the fact that we are very open about what we do is a huge step forward since 1990.
Just like we care about our youth services, we care about our DJ. This is going to Dante Inferno tonight, everybody.
At some points I feel like I was lucky coming out at the time I did. You heard stories of people getting beat up in the parking lot, and there was heavy security, 20 and 30 years ago. 16 years ago, when Club Q opened, those are things that we haven't had to worry about the same.
What time are we at?
We're at 8:58.
All right, good luck. Second set. Hope all of you fall. Thanks.
The up-and-coming drag queens and kings that are just coming out or just starting to perform, I don't think they realize that walking into a straight bar downtown and performing was not a thing, not even 5 years ago. And so as all these battles have been fought by the previous LGBT people before us and their allies, space was important, and private space and safe space.
Stand up at the back of the stage, please.
So that's why I think we've seen this shift in bars and resource centers and going away. We're down to we're the only LGBT bar left in town. And not because people aren't using them, because they're not needed the same, this is what we fought for. And so that's my goal, is to create this, is just keep strengthening the community and building this family. What we're going through now is going to require us to be a community again.
Heaven had never seen. You walked in with a story to tell and 10,000 tongues to scream. And
progress, change, justice, and equity, rights once gained, they're never taken for granted. You always have to be forever pushing back the tide of those who would once again wash over you and take them away again.
So who cares whose arms I'm all wrapped up in?
I think that empowers kids to know that Colorado, not everyone hates them, doesn't find them to be an abomination. Those words don't stick like they used to.
We aren't what we were painted as a broad brush back then. I call Colorado the accepting state, and Colorado Springs. And we're changing, and this is a place where you should always feel welcome.
But here I am, standing strong, and I am free.
Yeah, get a shot of that.